Hello and welcome to my Boeing 737 tutorial. This is part of my Fiverr tutorial series. These videos are included, this entire playlist is included with with any purchase on my Fiverr. If you're seeing this and you haven't buy them because this is public, and you want to be taught dynamically and personally, feel free to check the link in the description for my Fiverr. And yeah, so first of all, we're going to plan the route. So in this case, we're going to do Delta 1054 from Miami to Cancun. We're on the 737-800. This is the Zibo one for X-Plane. If you're on Microsoft and by the way, this also sort of works for the default 737 on X-Plane. It's not a very good aircraft, the default one, but it works, and you can follow this tutorial as well, although you won't be able to do some of the things that I do, especially the FMC is going to be different, but it's very, very intuitive, the default one. You should be able to do it no problem. So this is a Zibo for X-Plane 12. If you're on Microsoft and you have the PMDG, this is a very important step. Go here and choose one of these variants, depending on what you have. The normal one, I believe it is the economy config. I'm not completely sure about this, but I think it is. If you're on any other aircraft, you can click default or create your own airframe on the airframe editor right here. In my case, the default works perfectly for the Zibo one, the Zibo 737. So we're just gonna use that. Then also, I recommend you put in some extra fuel. For this flight, I'm gonna put 20. You can put, I recommend 30 to 45 minutes. Make sure this is in minutes. But in my case, I'm gonna put 20 because I don't think I'm gonna take that much time. Although actually, I might put 30. Just for some extra room. Okay, so we generate flight. Right, so here we have the generated flight. So we're going to go ahead and view PDF. We're also going to open the charts. So you write, charts.navigraph.com. If you have a Navigraph description, of course. We're going to go to airports and we're going to look for the ICAO code of Miami, which is Kilo Mike India Alpha. We click open charts. We click the airport first and then open charts. And you have all the charts here, separated into categories. Ref, you're not going to need this. This is for the ATC, not for you. We're going to open the airport charts. So the one that says airport, airport info, or just airport. And here we have it. So we're in concourse D, we're around here. So we can now jump into the aircraft and start doing this. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toggle the jetway attachment, like so. There's no bell, I don't know why. We can also go to ground service. You can do this in your tablet, or if you're in the PMDG, you can do it on the FMC in FS Actions, I believe it is. We're gonna connect the GPU. We're gonna set the chocks. We're gonna open the forward door, and that would be it. And we can start the leg. Ooh, bit laggy. Why is it so laggy? What's going on? Okay, it's a little bit laggy. Maybe it's the leg. If I turn the leg off. Yeah, no, it's still horrifyingly laggy. So we're just gonna go and hope that my computer can run this. So first of all, you go to the overhead. I don't think I have a camera for the overhead. So you just go to the overhead, and right here, you can see there's the battery guard. So you click it, and it's gonna flick the switch inside to on. You can switch this to battery, see that it's draining, and you can see this to ground power, and see that you have ground power. You're also going to switch the standby power to auto if it isn't already. It should be, but if it isn't, for example, in the default aircraft it's not, so you switch that to auto. And then you connect the ground power by flicking this switch down, like so. So now the aircraft comes to life. The displays come to life, and everything comes to life. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to clear this message. We're going to go ahead and turn the emergency lights to armed by flicking this guard down. And we can put the non-smoking sign to off. On, sorry. We also go down here to the lights panel, and we turn the position lights to steady. This is going to be the red. I don't think you can see it very well here. It's green and red lights at the tips of the wings. And if it's nighttime, you can also put the logo lights on. Yeah, I'm gonna put them on. Even though it's not very needed. Apart from that, we can go here to the cabin utility and turn both these switches to on. They should already be in on, just make sure they are. Apart from that, of course, we gotta put the auto brake to RTO. We can also go here and turn these to VOR 1 and VOR 2 as well as here, like so. And I believe this is everything for now, so we can go ahead and actually I'm going to set the weights and fuel first. And the PMDG, I think it is. You can find this in the FMC. So in this menu that you're going to have here, you should have one option here that says FS Action. You click on that. You click on fuel. That's for the fuel, and payload for the weights. All right. So where do you find this on the PDF? That's going to be the third page down. Here you can see it says weights. Passengers, we have 177. Actually, here I don't think you can set specifically the passengers. So we're just going to set the payload, so 18.5. We're going to put that here, 18.5. If you're on a default aircraft, you have to do this from your simulator's menu. If it's explained, you have to go to the little airplane that's here, click on the airplane that you're using, then Suede's Fuel and Cargo, I think it's called, the menu, and there you can set it. So 18.5, and we're going to set the fuel. We have way too much fuel. We're going to set it to 9.6 then, which you can see here or on the first page here. So 9.6. And fuel truck, we call that. Perfect. Perfect. So now we're going to set the IRS to nav, which is right here. Whoops. There. and it's going to yell at us to set the IRS position. So enter IRS heading. So go to FMC, position init, and we are going to input the reference airport. In this case, it's Kilo Mike India Alpha Miami. There you go. The gate, you can also input it. It's not extremely important. I'm not sure what the gate is here, but it doesn't really matter. We go to next page, and we select one of these two, whichever one you want. Previous page, and we set IRS position. So essentially what we're doing is we're telling the aircraft to align the instruments, and the aircraft is like, okay, but where do I align it to? Where on the world are you, so I can align the heading indicator correctly and the map correctly. So we're giving it our specific position so that it can do that correctly. After that, we click on route, and as you can see, it already gives us our departure airport. We just have to confirm it by clicking on the origin. Then we input our destination airport, which in this case is going to be Cancun, or Mike Uniform November. Our flight number.
Flight deck, fuel is all loaded up and you are good to go.
Right, fuel is loaded up. That's Delta 1054. We input that, and our departure runway, which you see in the second page. You have here your route, and your departure runway is going to be this one. So this is going to be your departure airport / your departure runway. So 08 left. And we click activate. And then execute. Every time we see this light, we need to execute. So there you go. Okay. After this, we're going to input our departure. So we go to this button that says DEP hour. That's departure arrival. And as you can see, there's one departure, but there's two options for the arrival, either at Miami or Cancun. Now, why would you want the arrival to plan an arrival at Miami if that's your departure airport? Because in the case that you have an emergency and that you need to come back to the airport, you can very quickly just here plan an arrival. So that makes it quite a lot easier. Right, so we're going to go to departure at Miami. Click that. And we're going to look for our departure. In this case, for us, it's going to be GLADS 2. Here it is, GLADS 2. And the transition, this is the point after the departure, so it's lulls. Whoops, lulls. There you go, and we press execute. Execute, there you go. We go back to the route, and we click next page. So you can see now we have our departure set. So now we're gonna input the rest of our flight plan. So the next airway after lulls is Yankee 196. So we'll input that, Yankee 196, and we click via, like so. And that's going to take us to Kanoa. Right, after we have inserted each airway with its waypoint, we click execute. Then we go to the next one, which is Uniform Bravo 879er. Uniform Bravo 879er. And we click down here. Then that's going to take us to NOSAT. So we write again NOSAT, and we click here, and then we click execute. Now after this point, we have the arrival to Cancun. So we're going to go here to departure and arrival, and we're going to click arrival for Cancun. So that's the second button on the right. So it's going to be NOSET 1 Bravo. So we click NOSET 1 Bravo, and it's going to be runway 12 left. So in this case, it's the ILS 3. You can check which ILS it is if you have multiple on the charts. In this case, because I'm also ATC in Mexico, I know these arrivals by heart. The one is what we call in Spanish la gota, which is where you pass over the VOR on a certain heading and then essentially do a 180 and come back to the ILS. The ILS 2 is a DME ARC, so that's for conventional aircraft, and the ILS 3 is RNAV. So it's the ILS 3 runway 12 left, correction. Now the transition, I know it's reduced, but I'm going to show you how I know. You go to the charts, you go to star. You search for your approach. Oh, sorry, this is Miami. Let's go to Cancun. Open charts. All right, so you look for your star. In this case, it's NOSET 1 Bravo. Here it is. So NOSET 1 Bravo is this one. We're going to go here, turn right here, and you can see that the last point is redug on this trajectory. And it also has, between parentheses, IAF. IAF is the initial waypoint of your approach. So this is a start, this is an arrival. An approach is what's going to get you to the actual runway. So in this case, it's the ILS DME 3. So this. And you can see redug is the first point here. So that's going to be our transition for this flight. Click execute, and then we go back to route. So now if we look here, we have the entire flight here. If you need more space, you can always click to the next page and continue here. So we're now going to check that the legs are all correct. So we check here every page and make sure there's no discontinuities. Good. There's no discontinuities. So that's perfect. If there was one, you would just click the next waypoint and then click on the discontinuity itself. So you kind of bring everything up to the discontinuity. And that's all you need to do. It's a bit harder a bit more complicated than with the Airbus, but it works. I don't know if I could. Right, I'm actually gonna show you. If I delete this point, you can see here you have a discontinuity. So in this point, if you see this, you just grab Canoa and bring it here. In this case, I'm not going to do that because otherwise I'm going to be missing a point. So I'm just going to leave it like this. That's essentially what you would do, and then you would execute. All right, so all points are good. So our entire our entire route is okay. So now we're going to go back to route and perf init. So now you would insert, if you're in the PMDG, you would insert these weights that you can find in either the payload page or the fuel page in the FMC FS action menu. In here, in the Zibo, we can just click it and it loads it automatically. So we don't need to worry about that. Then we need to calculate our reserves. So we go back to our flight plan, to our PDF. We go to the first page, and it's going to be right here with all the fuel. So the reserves, just as in the car, is everything that you have in case of emergency, right? In case you run out of fuel, this is what the extra you have before you absolutely run out of fuel and the engines are starved of fuel. So how do we calculate this? We're going to use these two values. So it's 1772, we round that up to 18, and 1100, we can round this to 1100. So it's going to be it's going to be 2,900, and then we can also add the extra that we added, which is so it's going to be 2900 plus 1500, so that's 4. Okay, so that's already 3, so it's 4.4. 4.4. Let's just make sure that's correct. So 1700 plus 1100 plus 1500. Whoops. 00. Yeah, 4.3. I said 4.4, not 4.3, but that's okay. Oh yeah, right, because this is 18, not 17. There you go. Okay, so it's correct. Math is correct. So it's 4.4. Then the cost index. That's going to be at the top right of your page, right here. So in this case, it's 42. Then our cruising altitude, in this case, it's right here. It's going to be 280. So you write flight level 280. There you go. Then press execute. It says insufficient fuel. If it says that, you can just go higher. So I'm actually going to go to flight level 320. And at that point, we don't get that message anymore. Why that happens? Because the SimBrief variant maybe isn't exactly the same as this airplane itself. So if that happens, just put a higher flight level and go to a higher flight level. Why? Because the higher you go, the more efficient the engines are and the less fuel you spend. So you, with the same amount of fuel, the higher you go, you can go quite a lot further. Okay, so now cruise wind, actually. Yeah, this is just below the cost index. It's right here. So it's 307/26. So 307/026. Execute. ESA. This is right here, average ESA. In this case, it's going to be 15. It's quite tropical places. It's quite hot places. Okay, if you're in the PMDG, you don't have to worry about the ESA. It calculates it automatically. Then we go to N1 limit. In this case, usually takeoff, the TO is going to be selected already, and the climb is going to be selected already. If it's not, here in the Zibo, you just click here on this button. If you need to change it, I'll teach you when to change it, when you need to change it. Very rarely. It's not very common to change it, but there's some situations that require it, and we'll get more in depth in our sessions. For now, just leave it to takeoff and climb. Then we go to takeoff. In this airplane, we always take off with flaps 5, so we're going to input that, flaps 5. Then we click on the center of gravity, like so. And then we click on these 3, like so. 138, that's our V2 speed, so we're going to input that into here. 138, there you go. And we're gonna set the trim to 4.5. This doesn't have to be exact. 4.5, so it's around there, more or less. Alright, so that's all the performance, VNav, and the route, so that's good. So we can now just go to the, actually I'm gonna leave it at the takeoff page. Alright, after this, we're able to now set up the aircraft. So first things first, we're gonna go to the autopilot panel, which is this one, and we're gonna turn on the flight directors. It's very important that you turn on the flight director of the side that you're flying on. If you like to fly on the first officer's flight, the first officer's side, sorry, you set first the right one. If you're on the captain side, you you turn on first the left one. So that's what we're going to do, like so. Then we're gonna arm the auto throttle with this switch right here, and we're gonna arm VNav and LNav, like so. That's all we're gonna do. And of course we're gonna set our cruising altitude or initial altitude if you're flying with ATC. In this case I'm not, so I'm gonna go straight for the cruising altitude. Great, so after this we'll set up the rest. The IRS is already aligned, so we're gonna go up here. We can already set the fasten seatbelt sign. Is there anything else? We can do the tests, so we can test the overspeed warnings and the stall warnings. There you go. You can also test the flight recorder. Whoops, let me adjust the camera there. We can set this, if you set this to this setting whilst aligning, it's going to tell you how many minutes until it's aligned. By the way, just a quick fun fact. We can test this as well. Alright, sorry about that cut. We're going to keep going. So, where was I? I don't remember where I was, but okay. So let's keep going. Right, so we'll look for the METAR now. So we're going to go to aviation.gov, aviationweather.gov, and we're going to insert here the ICAO code of the airport. So in this case, it's Miami, and here we have the METAR, and we're going to input the QNH, which in this case is 3000. So we're gonna go right here. If it's in hectopascals, you can change it with this bigger knob. And to set it, we're gonna use this 3000. That's good. All right, so now we're ready to start this up. So we're gonna go ahead. We should normally do all the tests. Actually, we're gonna do them. Why not? So do them. This switch right here on both sides, then this one to the left, and then to the right, like so. And then we press this button right here for the cargo fire, like so. We can also do the GPWS, like with this button right here. Like that. Okay. Perfect. So now we can also do the lights test. Where was it? Here. This is not necessary in the simulator because you choose what fails, but well, we're still gonna do it. All right. We got the crossfeed test as well. So this light has to turn blue and then dim itself like so. And I believe that's all. Yeah, I think that's all. Okay. Oh, and these as well. Okay, good. So now we can go ahead and start the APU now. So for that, we're going to turn on the left aft fuel pump. Like so, you can hear it. And we're going to turn this to start. Wait here a minute while pressing it, and then release. If this low oil pressure thing comes on, that means it's powering on. I'm going to turn on the panel lights like so. Maybe dim because it's, I don't know why, but it's pretty dark. Even that's the middle of the day. Right, so it's powering on. You can see it powering on. We're also going to pre-plan the pushback, which actually, let me see in which direction it's going to be. So, right. Okay, so it's going to be 08 left, so it's going to be this one, so we're going to be pushing back nose to the right. Okay, the APU is now running, and we can see that because this blue light has now turned on. And we can now switch the electrical source to the, well, the generators to the APU, like so. So now we're not using the power from the ground power unit, we're using the APU. So we can also now go here to ground and disconnect the APU, and also remove the chocks because we're about to start the pushback. So we're going to go ahead and plan the pushbacks with nose to the right. So we're going to plan this. Like so.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Alright, and we are ready, so we're going to start pushback.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
So we can go ahead, close the doors. And we can disconnect the jetway. We're also going to turn the anti-collision light on, like so. And now that the APU is running, we're also going to turn the APU bleed on, engine bleeds off, backs to auto, and the isolation valve we can leave open. Now that the APU is running, we can also, I'm going to set the camera a little bit better. We can also turn on the window heat, the yaw damper, and the trim air right here,
Doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
as well as the electrical hydraulic pumps. Let's not forget to set the correct altitude here on the pressure, like so. Now the tow is connecting. We're going to go ahead, also close this. And we're also going to set the terrain here, terrain radar. We're not on VATSIM, but I'm going to set, 3503 is perfect. So we're going to go ahead and, actually I was going to set that, but that's perfect, right there, where it is. Okay.
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release
Release parking brake. Before we release the parking brake, I'm gonna turn on these that I forgot. The recirculation fans, you gotta make sure they are in auto. Otherwise the aircraft will not pressurize. Okay, so now we can release the parking brake.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start the engines. To do that, we're gonna need to first turn the packs off. Isolation valve, make sure it's in open. Make sure, see how the pressure is going up now. And we're gonna go ahead and start the engine 2 first. So we pull the starter to ground. And we're gonna watch as the N2 rises. When the N2, which is this right here, crosses from 15 to 20, we're gonna go ahead and insert the fuel like this. Oh, by the way, we gotta turn the fuel pumps on before we do that. Sorry, forgot about that. Just make sure your fuel pumps are on. So now we see it rising, and when we can, how do we know when we can start the other one? When this switch goes back to off by itself, like so. So now we can start the engine number 1. And again, we're gonna see it, the N2 rising, and when it gets to 20, we can insert the fuel. Insert the fuel. And we now see it rising. We see the oil pressure rising as well. So that is all good. Perfect. Now that they're both on, we're gonna put them to continues, like so. This is so they don't turn off in during takeoff or landing. We're also gonna switch the generators to the engine generators, like so. We're gonna turn the bleed areas of the engines on and APU off, packs on, and isolation valve auto. So actually these 3, the packs and isolation valve, all to auto. And probe heat on, as well as, oh, your damper is already on, good. After that, we can now turn the APU off, like so. We should normally set the ILS frequency in course for Miami. We're not going to do that because we select when we have failures, but yeah. We're going to set the parking brake as we have been instructed, and we're going to set flaps to 5s. That's 3 techs down. How do you, we see that we set the correct amount of flaps here. So this tells us how much flaps we have. In this case, it's going to get to 5, and it's going to stop right there. And if we go ahead and look out the window, we can see the flaps are in 5, in the correct position. If you're in the Zebo and you have pedals and something else for the nose wheel steering, I recommend you go to hardware and make sure nose wheel axis is on, as it is for me.
So is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the left. We'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
All right. I'll turn taxinate on. And we have our hand signal, so we can do the parking brake off and give it a little bit of power to taxi towards runway 08 left. So in the PMDG, the ground speed is right here, and the Zibo, it's here. We're gonna taxi off to the side here. So the maximum taxi speed should be about 20 knots on the ground speed. So yeah, just make sure to maintain that. And well, this is pretty long taxi, so I'll see you when we're in front of the runway for the before takeoff checklist. Alright, so we're arriving at the holding point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna check here the surfaces, right? So we're gonna go full left, full right, full up, full down, rudder right, rudder left, and brakes. Okay, that's good. You can set this up however you want. I like to have it like this. Okay. So now we're before the holding point, which is this. So we're going to go ahead, turn on runway, turn off lights, landing lights. We'll leave the taxi light on for now. Wing lights. Okay, as well as the strobe lights. Like that.
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
We also go down here to the fuel flow to reset. So it's, oops, like that. Reset, then set. Okay, check the flaps are 5 and green. Landing gear down green. Okay. So now we are pretty much ready for departure, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, we are. Okay. We should normally set the minimums. I'm gonna set them to 200 on the radio, just in case. Although we don't really need them for now. Like so. Good. Okay. So now we can go ahead and go into the runway. Following the taxiway line. And lining up is pretty, even though it's pretty intuitive. I'm going to show you a little trick. You go perpendicular like this, and you wait until you have the numbers about right there, and then you turn like this. And that's going to leave you perfectly lined up with the runway. There you go. We're a little bit off to the side, to the left side, no problem. Okay, so now for the takeoff. We go ahead, power to 40%. stable. And takeoff thrust set around there. And with the rudder, we start controlling the aircraft to make sure we don't get too much off the side. 80 knots. 100. We would do the cross check, but we're not going to do it. Rotate. And we're in the air. Positive rate, so gear up. Great. So now you have to kind of feel the aircraft. Let go of the aircraft. See, it wants to climb a little bit. Quite a lot. We're going to let it.
1,000.
And we're going to trim down a little bit so that it's pretty much perfect with this. And now we're going to go ahead and click Command A right there. And that's going to activate the autopilot, which is going to follow the RNAV and the LNAV. Once we're in the air, we can turn off runway turn-off lights, taxi lights. Very important step. We need to set the landing altitude. In this case, we're not going to do it because the landing altitude is already 0, both at Miami and at Cancun. But yeah, very, very important step. After that, we're going to put the flaps up as we get to higher speeds. So when you start getting close to this yellow line, put one tick of flaps up. And if you pass this thing that says up, you can put them completely up, like so. So now flaps are retracting, as you can see, and the airplane is flying itself. You can also put the engine's starter switches to off. And I'm going to do a little something here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the menu if it wants. Please don't crash on me. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Thank God. And we're going to put the daytime to around 12, like this. So we're on the daytime and we don't arrive at Cancun during the night. So that we can see a little better. Alright, perfect. You can also put the auto brakes to off. And once we cross 10,000 feet, we'll put the landing lights off and fasten seatbelt signs off. So we're gonna increase the range a little bit so we can see what's happening. Alright, so we're gonna maintain. Why is it throttling up? I think this is a problem with my throttle on my side. Anyways, we can reset the radio, the minimums now. And we can see that we're going to be maintaining 5,000 until Gator. That's a cool name for a waypoint in Florida. So yeah, we're just going to maintain 5,000 until we're at Gator, and then the aircraft is going to keep climbing on its own. The landing gear, we can put it to off after the lights have extinguished here. So off is the middle position. And important detail I forgot, especially if you're on VATSIM or whatever, there's the TARA, very important step that I forgot. Alright, as you can see, we're about to cross Gator now. So we're gonna start climbing as soon as we pass it. By the way, the knob to change the range on this, on the map, is this one right here. Right here. So we're now passing it. And you're going to see once I pass it, it's going to automatically continue to climb. So it's turning now. It's prioritizing the turn itself. And now it's going to add power so we can climb quite quickly. And well, it's not managing quite well because maximum is 250. So it's going to climb quite a lot, so it can then go back with nearly full power to 250. So that's quite a rate of ascent, as you can see. Trimming automatically. And now once we pass 10,000 feet, we're gonna go ahead and turn off the landing lights and the seatbelt sign. Quite amazing views here out of Florida on X-Plane 12. Alright, 10,000 feet, so we can turn them off. Some airplanes, some Boeing 737s have only two landing lights. This particular one has 4. We're also going to go ahead and turn logo wing lights off, and that's it. And of course, fasten seatbelt signs. Alright, now that that's all off, we just have to wait until we get to our top of climb, which is right here. The top of climb is when you get to your cruising altitude. So it's this thing there, right here that says T/C. And then we'll just follow a route to Cancun. Also, when we get to 18,000 feet, this the QNH setting right here, it's gonna turn yellow and it's gonna start blinking. When that happens, that means you're crossing your transition altitude and you have to press the standard button right here. So I'll cut back to when that happens, and then I'll just cut back. Then after that, I'm gonna do again a cut and cut back to when we're about to start our descent, because during cruise there's really not much to do. By the way, you have a weather and a terrain radar. Right now I have the weather radar turned on, as you can see here, WXA. How do you turn them on and off? With these buttons right here, you turn on and off what appears here. So with this traffic button, I turn off the traffic radar, the TCAS. With the weather button right here, turn on the weather radar. With the terrain button right here, I turn on the terrain. And unfortunately, you cannot have both the terrain and the weather at the same time. It turns off one of them when you turn on the other one. You can have, for example, weather on this side and terrain on this side, for example, which is actually usually how it's done on real aircraft. So yeah. Alright, so we're now at 18,000 feet, and you can see that the QNH setting turned yellow. Sometimes it blinks. I don't know why it's not blinking right now. I think it's on the descent that it's going to blink. But it's turned yellow, which means we have to set this to standard. So we do that by pressing this button right here. Boop. And there you go. Now it's STD for standard, and it's green. Okay, and by the way, you can see just how quick this airplane can climb. I mean, we were at 5,000 feet just 2 minutes ago, and now we're crossing almost 20,000 feet. It's a really quick aircraft when it comes to climbing. The Airbus as well. So, anyways, I'm gonna. Oh, by the way, we also have to set it on this side. There you go. So yeah, so now we're just going to continue our climb to 32,000 feet, and once we're at 32,000 feet, we'll cut back to. Actually, I'm going to cut back right now. Once we're at our cruising altitude and about 80 miles from our top of descent. So yeah, see you then. Bye. All right, so. It's been about an hour, and as you can see, we are about 40 miles from the top of descent. As you can see, it says T/D, that's top of descent. So, we're going to start preparing the aircraft for the descent and for the arrival. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Cancun charts, and we are going to go to here to APP approach charts and ILS DME 312 left. Make sure it's the correct correct chart, and we're going to go ahead. So as you can see, there's essentially two charts in here. There's a horizontal chart and a vertical one. So we're going to go ahead to the vertical one, and we're going to see that, as you can see, it kind of has like a cone here. That's the vertical ILS signal. That's the glide slope. So you can see it says mandatory 14,000 at this point, which is where we intercept the ILS. So we're going to go ahead and input 14,000 into the altitude. For the rest of the restrictions, the airplane is going to follow them automatically, so we don't have to worry. So there we go, 14,000. Not 14,000, 1,400. Then we're gonna look down here for the minimums, which are right here. Actually, no, they're not here. They're here. So we're gonna do an ILS, and if you were doing a localizer, you input this. If you're doing ILS, you input this. If you were doing a circle to land, which is the ILS one, then you would input these. So we're gonna input the minimums for the ILS. So these big numbers, those are the minimums on the barometer. So that's on the same altimeter as this. You have two altimeters in any given aircraft. Well, in airliners at least. You have a barometric altitude, which is this one, and you have a radio altimeter, which is, it doesn't appear here, it appears down here when you get below 2,500 feet above the terrain. So I personally prefer to use the radio for the minimums. You can use whichever you want. So this big one is for the baro altimeter, and this is for the radio altimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and put 228 on the radio. You change between the two with this one right here, with the big knob. So that's baro and that's radio. So we're going to go ahead and use the radio for this, which is towards the other side. Whoops, too much. So it's 228. Like so. Perfect. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is what was it? Oh, right, the the frequency and the course of the ILS. So because this is a signal coming from antennas that are actually there on the ground sending the signal, they have a frequency, and the frequency is the one that you can see on this circle right here. So it is 110.7. So let's input that. It's on this one right here. So it's 110.7. Oops, there we go. And click this button to activate it. Okay, we're also going to set it in the other one. So it's 110.7. Alright, good. Whoa, what's going on? Okay, the autopilot deactivated there for a second. I think I clicked a button for accident that I may have mapped to the autopilot. That was definitely a mistake. No problem though. The autopilot can just be re-engaged and nothing happens. Right, so that's the frequency set. So it's 110 on both, 0.7. And now we have to set the course. This case is 125, and it's already set because I think I landed here on my last flight on this aircraft. So yeah, we have pretty much everything we need set. Once we get below 19,000 feet, which is a transition altitude at Mexico, then we're gonna change the altimeter setting. Last thing that we have to do, actually two things we have to do before I forget. We click here, init ref. That's gonna send you to this page that says approach ref. And you're gonna have here three options to land with. You can land flaps 15, you can land flaps 30, or flaps 40. Recommend, so it's a bit easier for you and you're going a bit slower, I recommend that you land flaps 40. That's what I'm going to do in this case. So you click it, and then you're gonna see that you have copied it here to your scratch pad, and you're going to paste it here on flap/speed, like so. Okay, so we're going to be landing with flaps 40 at 125 knots. So good. So I think we're starting our descent. Yes, we are. As you can see, the throttles pull back and we start descending now. So that's good. And last thing that we have to do, the auto brake. We're gonna set this is a pretty long runway, so we're gonna set the auto brake to 1, like so. If it's a medium-sized runway, you could set it to 2. If it's a very short runway, you could set it to 3. If you're landing in T-Book 2, I guess you could put it in max, but we pretty much never use max. We use 1 or 2 mainly. So we're going to use 1 for this one, and we're going to leave it there. Alright, so now, now that we're starting to descend, we're going to just monitor the aircraft and make sure that it's actually following the restrictions. So we can see here it's going to descend to flight level 220, and then it's going to keep descending. So that's why it says another top of descent here. It's so you don't have to manually tell the aircraft to continue the descent. If you get to one of those points and it doesn't descend or climb, depending on if you're departing or arriving, yeah, you just have to click here, this button right here that says Alt Intervene. That you just click there, and it'll essentially cancel the restriction and just keep going. So yeah, that's how you do that. As we start to descend closer to 10,000 feet, you're going to see the speed slowly reducing to 250 knots. So yeah, unfortunately, this aircraft doesn't descend as fast as it. I guess it could descend as fast as it climbs. But yeah, we usually don't. We usually descend exactly at this rate, 2,500 feet per minute. That's a perfect rate of descent. If for some reason you start descending too late, you're gonna see that quickly becomes an issue, and you start descending way faster than you should. One thing that you could do in that case is you go here. You can see there's a hold here. So you click hold, and what's this? Right. So you can click next hold, and you select the point at which you want to hold, and you click it, and then you just click insert. Or yeah, I'll show you how to do this specifically when we come across it, which we probably will at some point. For now, it's not really necessary. So right, let's go to the Lex page, and let's just monitor the aircraft is following all the restrictions. Quite a bit of, well, not quite a bit, but there's a little bit of clean air turbulence as we get close to it. Aviation Center, let's see what the QNH is in Cancun. It says Mike Uniform in November. And we can see that the QNH is 29906. Okay. And, right, yeah. We have 7 miles visibility, sky clear, and 3 knots of wind that are a little bit of crosswind. That's pretty much wind calm. Okay, so we're leveling off at 22,000, just as the restriction says. That's good. And when we pass the transition altitude, I'll cut back, because right now there's not too much to do until we're closer to the airport. So, yeah, see you then. Alright, so now we're descending past 19,000 feet, well, 19,500 feet. So we can see that the standard now is yellow. So we're going to go ahead and click standard again. And then we're going to set, I think it was 29906, correct? Whoops, where is it? Yes, 29906. Okay, so we're going to go here to and set it to 29906. Perfect. So now we're now descending to 14,000 feet at our next point. Actually no, yes, to Ampus at 14,000 feet. And once we get a bit closer, we'll start using the flaps. For now, it's not necessary. And speed brake either, or speed's pretty good right now. Start getting on my checklist again. Right, here it is. And once we pass 10,000 feet, I'll start to follow the checklist. This checklist, by the way, I'm going to send you when we start our lessons. You can start to see the coastline as we get closer and closer. So we're less than 40 miles from the airport. So we're gonna reduce the range a little bit. So the airport's here. We're gonna essentially do a downwind, kind of like a pattern, similar to a pattern. It's not a pattern because it's instrumental, but it looks like one. And yeah, that I chose this approach specifically because it's a pretty calm approach. There's not too many weird turns or anything, and you have quite a very long final to do everything and pass a checklist, so you don't have to be uh, doing it too fast. That can happen, for example, with airports in Europe. Some airports, for example, Marseille, has quite a short final. Mexico City has very short final. Well, airports in Mexico usually have short finals. Airports say like I'm not too sure, but some airports in Europe have quite short finals as well. Airports, for example, in Switzerland and stuff like that, it's a bit more mountainous. Sometimes they can't afford to have a long final. So yeah, and South America as well, Argentina and Chile especially, have very interesting approaches. So yeah, when we do our sessions, we'll probably end up doing one or two approaches around those places, simply because they put a lot more pressure on you, and if you're able to do them, you're able to do pretty much anything. And sometimes they don't even have ILS, they only have a VOR DME or something like that. So yeah, for now we're gonna stick to our beautiful and calm approach into Cancun. Alright, so we're now about to pass 10,000 feet. So let's get those fasten seatbelt signs on. And we're also going to turn the landing lights on, as well as the runway turn off and the taxi lights as well. Some people like to turn these three on a little bit closer to the airport. You can do however you want, as long as you have the landing lights on below 10,000 feet. If you were during the night, you could also turn on the wing and logo lights. I'm not going to do it because it's daytime right now. So yeah. And by the way, while we have some time, a question that I get asked sometimes, and that bothered me for quite a long time because I didn't really know what was up with it, is this switch right here. The truth about this switch is I still don't understand exactly how it works. What I do know is that it causes more wear to that particular engine that it's on. So I know it would be causing more wear to engine number right than left. So what pilots do in real life is every time they get on the aircraft to fly, they switch it up. So if it was in right, you would switch it up to left like that before flying. So we're gonna keep it on right. Apart from that, so you can basically just ignore the switch. It doesn't really change anything as far as the practical use of the airplane goes. So yeah, don't worry too much about it. So we should be, yeah, we see the airport right now, right there. Quite interesting, this approach. So yeah, and we're now going to, as you can see, reduce the speed. I think it's going to be to around 220 probably. Yep. And we're 220. Oh yeah. And we're descending to 6,000 feet right now, and that's what we're going to maintain due to the restrictions. What's interesting about this approach is it also maintains quite a low altitude for quite some time, kind of like the departure at Miami. So that's pretty interesting. Quite a beautiful views out here. This is also why I like this route. There's some pretty cool views, and it's some easy approaches and departure, nothing too crazy. So if you just want to fly normally and I don't know, while you do something else or something like that, I recommend this. Also, while you're learning, this is a very good route for the same reasons, basically. And it's both very flat terrain, so you don't have to worry about terrain or anything like that. Out of these two airports, the only thing you have to worry about is traffic when connected to the network, either IVAO or VATSIM. Apart from that, it's a pretty chill approach. So we're gonna continue to 5,000 now, I believe. Yeah. Once we start turning towards final, actually turning towards final, we're not going to do anything. We're going to wait until we're a bit closer. So we're at this point right here, which I think is uniform November 528. Yeah, so that's when we're going to start preparing the aircraft for the landing itself. By the way, I forgot, we're below 10,000 feet, so let's continue with the checklist. So below 10,000 feet, speed below 2,500, correction, 250 knots, check. Landing lights on, check. Passenger signs on, check. Check weather, check. Approach checklist, altimeter set, localizer frequency, check and check, and course, check, check. Okay, and then the rest is when you're already on the glide slope. So yeah, let's just wait until we pass redog, and then we'll start focusing a little bit more on that. Alright, just a quick note here. We're still not past Riddock, but we're leveled off at 3,000 feet. The speed is about 200 knots. And you can see the nose is pointing quite high. It's about 5 degrees, 4 degrees up. What this means, and you can see that the stall speed is getting a bit close. So what this means is we can start putting in flaps. So we're going to go ahead, put flaps 1, which is gonna activate the slats, actually, not the flaps, but that's still gonna give us a bit more lift, and it's gonna slow us down a little bit. So we're gonna go now to 175 knots, and we're gonna keep it there until we get past redog. After that, we can put flaps 5, flaps 10, and just keep going through there. So we get closer, and once we're on the glide slope, which is the vertical signal of the ILS, then we can put flaps full and gear down and all that stuff. So for now, we're just going to keep it here and watch that our speed doesn't get too slow. We're now turning for redog, so we're also going to put the range to 20. Alright, and as we get past redog and are gonna do some turns and stuff that can cause us to stall if we're not careful, we're gonna go ahead and put flaps 2, which is also gonna bring our speed a little bit more down. And actually we can go straight to flaps 5, which is the approach flaps, I believe. Or is that 15? I think that's 15 actually. It's been a while since I've flown this airplane. So flaps 5. All right, and we're gonna go ahead, put flaps 10. And that's flaps are 10, and we're gonna put flaps 15. So you can see now we got quite a bit of flaps. So we're gonna keep it there until we get to the to the ILS. For the flaps, really, you have to kind of feel the aircraft. It's not an exact science. Obviously, to go slower, you need more flaps. But yeah, it's not an exact science, especially with the Airbus. With the Boeing, the FMC, as you can see, the speed right now is on FMC speed mode. So what that means is the speed is going to adjust itself automatically until you get, I think it's past flaps 25. So that would be the next tick of flaps, or flaps 30, I'm not too sure. Fuel is getting a bit low. We still have fuel for a go around, but yeah, it's getting quite low. We got to start keeping an eye on that. And we can see here that it says INCP 125 DME 16.3. INCP is the code for the ILS, so you have to make sure that the code is correct. Why? Because it changes from runway 12 left to runway 12 right. The course is a course that we set. If it's set incorrectly, it'll be crossed out. So you have to make sure it's not crossed out. And DME is distance measuring equipment. Essentially, it tells you the distance to the runway. So we're 15 miles away. We intercept the ILS about 4 miles before the runway. We're gonna trust our instruments here, and we're gonna arm. Actually, we can wait. We could wait to the 4 miles that we're supposed to wait. Yeah, let's do that. So you can see here it says D 4.3, so that's 4.3 miles. So yeah, we're gonna wait there and until we're at 1,400, as we're supposed to. Just make sure this is correct. Yes, it's correct. And now we keep an eye out for the actual runway, which should be in front of us. There it is. Very far away, very hard to see, but it's there. So now that we're, once we're on the glide slope, so we're not following our autopilot anymore, we're following the ILS. Then we'll put the landing gear down, and the engine starters to sorry, not ground, to continuous. And well, normally you would make the announcement for the flight attendants to prepare for the landing, take the seat for the landing. And yeah, descent, we already did it. Approach, this is all good. Alright, we'll leave this at the landing checklist, which the landing checklist you do right before the landing, so when you're actually on the glide slope. Right, after this point, we're going to start. Where are we turning? Not too sure why I'm turning. Okay, it's correcting itself. I guess that was a bit of turbulence. It happens. Right. So we're gonna open the range to 10 miles. And once we're crossing this point, just before this point, I'm gonna arm the the approach. Actually, I could arm it right now. It would probably be best. So how do you know when to arm this? Essentially,
2500.
2500, gear down, otherwise the alarm doesn't shut up. So this is a radio altimeter I was talking to you about. Right. So we're 2.5 miles before our intercept point, the point where we should really intercept it, but we're getting kind of close. So I just want to activate it now, so it kind of has time to readjust. So you can see now it has intercepted the VOR localizer. This is what I was talking to you about. This is the horizontal signal. This is, and the GS, this is the glide slope, that's the vertical signal from the ILS. So now we're aligning ourselves, well, the airplane is aligning itself with the runway, and it's following that. So we can now put flaps full and bring the speed down as we want. So we're going to bring it down to ref. And wind correction plus 5 knots, so we should land 5 knots faster, but we're quite far away from our stalling speed. So we're gonna use this speed of 126. So 126, 135, 135. Okay. 1 knot of difference, not too much. Okay, so now what we're gonna do. In a little bit of time, I'm gonna, actually probably right now, I'm gonna take control of the aircraft and I'm gonna follow the ILS manually. And after that, about 100 feet from the ground, I'm gonna turn off this switch, which is the auto throttle. When that is off, I have control of the auto throttle, and that way I can actually stop. Otherwise, this is gonna try to maintain the speed. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button twice. And I'm going to maintain this. So I'm going to trim it to my liking. And I'm going to just watch. I'm going to follow both of these diamonds, especially the glide slope one. This one you can kind of disregard when you get closer. And you're able to see the runway and see that you're aligned correctly.
400.
Let's not get too high. There we go. Then you go down 3 green, flaps full. Okay.
300.
On the brakes, the spoilers, I forgot about that. Don't do that that late. Minimums continue. Right. 100. I'm going to turn this off.
50. 40. 30. 20.
20. Bring the throttle back, and we butter it. Once we touch the ground, reverse is on. And I'm going to maintain the center line. I'm going to try to go towards the center line.
80 knots.
80 knots. And below 60 knots. Reverses off. Auto brake off. And now we just taxi out. We're going to put the flaps up now, as far as they will go, so 0. There you go. And we can also bring this back down. Alright, and that is how you land the 737. As we taxi out, I'm going to bring all of these up, and I'm going to turn the APU on. Alright, we're going a little bit fast. That's okay, there's no one else here. Alright. Perfect. We can turn radar weather off, transponder off. Well, standby. And runway turn offs off. Ah, you know what I forgot? I forgot to put the engine starters in continuous. Okay, just ignore that and let's say I did put them on. Right. Well, still, it was a pretty good landing, I believe. So, yeah. We're now taxi. I know this airport by heart, that's why I'm not looking at the charts. So right now we're on Delta. We exited Alpha 3. This is Delta, and we're gonna turn. We're gonna continue there. We're gonna continue here on Delta. We're gonna turn right on Bravo, and then we're just gonna park at one of those gates. We can also turn the flight directors off now. We don't need them anymore. And the APU has started correctly. Hey, we did the world flight event here, and I was ground. That's why I know the airport by heart. It was yesterday. No, yesterday? Yeah, actually, it was yesterday that we did it. So yeah, that was quite interesting. Then they went to Guadalajara, which was also pretty interesting. All right, we're gonna turn on to Bravo here. Like so. And we're gonna park at one of these gates. Guess see which gates are available because of the AI aircraft. Let's do between the Delta and the Southwest, I think. So we're gonna park next to a company aircraft, which is gonna be a bit more realistic. Right there, which is gonna be. Which gate is this? 3-3. All right. All right. To do this, I recommend that you go into free camera and whoa. And kind of marshal yourself in, right? So we're looking pretty good, actually. We're actually looking spot on. And well, I'm not a ground operator, so I don't really know where exactly you would need to park on these lines. I just usually take the second one. So yeah. So just a tiny bit more. There. Okay, so parking brake set, taxi light off. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn on the generators for the APU, like so. We're gonna go ahead and actually that's all. We can turn the fasten seatbelt sign off. Oh, I didn't turn my strobes off, sorry. You have to put them in steady when you're not on the runway. Right, and now we bring these down. First for the engine number 1 or 2, whichever one you like. Like so. And then for the engine number 2. All right. So now we can go ahead and turn these 3 fuel pumps off, but keep in mind you have to keep the left aft fuel pump on for the APU to keep functioning. We can turn the APU bleeder on and engine bleeders off, as well as the isolation valve to open. We can... Ooh. I want to turn that. Probe heats off. Window heats we can keep on. And right. So at this point, actually, we can't turn the window heats off, yaw damper off. And well, now we can open the doors and let everyone come. So we're gonna build a jetway attachment, even though here at Cancun they don't really use them because they're quite expensive. Alright, and we go here, open the door, set the chocks, connect the GPU. Now that the GPU is connected, we can actually switch the power to the GPU now. We can turn off that fuel pump, turn off the APU bleed, and turn off the APU. Right, so when you're not using the APU or any source of bleeder, you turn these 2 on. Engine bleeders on. I don't exactly know why you do it, but yeah. We can also turn the recirculation fans off, electrical hydraulic pumps off, trim air off, and I believe that's it. Of course, anti-collision light off, very important. To let the ground crew know they can actually approach the aircraft. Okay, so that's everything for the flight itself. If you want to now turn off the airplane, all you have to do, well, we can also open this. So to turn off the airplane, all you have to do, it's quite easy. You just have just go here and turn off the IRS system. So you can see now it's off. And we can turn off the nav lights, no smoking signs off, emergency lights to off, cabin utility switches to off, VOR to off, like so, and okay, so that's everything here. Yep, so you can just go ahead now and turn off the standby power, turn off the battery. And there you go. The aircraft is now off. Oh, and ground power off. That's why you heard it power down when I disconnected the GPU from here. Yes, I forgot about that. Ground power off as well. And that's it. That's a flight with the 737. I hope to see you around in my classes. We'll get more in depth into how to do VOR DME approaches, RNP approaches, visual approaches, conventional departures as well, and everything in between. So, hope to see you around.